Guys, I am getting ready to water some of my Conophytum right quick and thought I would do a video today as some of these guys are really needing a drink. And I thought I'd just give you a few random facts while I talk about these guys. First off, Conophytum, unlike lithops, which they're in the same family, the same very large mesame family, but they are actually winter growers, and so their growth period starts, depending on where you're at, around August, September, and then they really get going with flowers, and they flower at the beginning of their growth period. Lithops flower at the end of their growth period. So with either lithops or Conophytum, if they're blooming, you know they're in an active growth phase. So while you still don't want to overwater, it's not nearly as risky to water these guys when they're blooming, even if you're kind of overwatering. And these guys, for the most part, are about finished, and I will pull these blooms off eventually, but not until they come off really easily, because you can damage these guys pretty easily. Now these ones, if you can see, they're pretty nice and fat. They're not really wrinkled at all. They're really puffy. These guys don't really need a drink. They could tolerate a drink, but they do not need a drink right now. So I'm going to leave these guys be. And in contrast, find these guys. If you can see these guys, these are a lot smaller, but their bodies, their whole bodies on these, almost all of them are pretty wrinkled. And sorry, the light's kind of glaring off of these a bit. If you can see, they're wrinkled. Let me get a bigger one here. These are a bit bigger. These are wrinkling as well. If you're going mushy, these guys were damaged in shipping. These ones are new for me. And it was like a box cutter got just slashed across them, so they're all just slashed. And they didn't die altogether, and I think a couple of them are going to revive. And while you might feel them and think, well, they're a little bit squishy, maybe I shouldn't water, because they're going into their active growth phase, I am definitely going to water these guys. And like I showed in my lithop video, sometimes you might want to use a spray bottle to dampen the top if you're using sand as a top coating. But I'm just going to run the water in really slowly on this one. I don't miss these guys. I give them a really good soak. Depending on where we are in the growing season, for sure. If they were wrinkling at a different time, I might give them a little mist and see if it helped before I watered. But and now it's running out the bottom, if you can see that. But because of the time of year it is, these guys are going to get a great soak because they're nice and shrivelly. And these guys, you can see they're blooming also, and you can maybe see the wrinkling. Yeah, I think so. So these guys are going to get a really good drink as well. All right, other facts about these guys. Unlike lithops, who only bloom in yellow and white, these guys bloom in pretty much every color, not blue, but pretty much every color, which is kind of fun. They're, most of them are day blooming. These guys are looking a little bit shriveled as well. I had a very naughty kitty that climbed up onto the windowsill and knocked multiples of my babies off, and so they got repotted. So because the roots were kind of damaged from the kitty knocking them off, I let them dry out a bit more than I would. And so now they're going to get a really good soaking. Conophytum, if you start them from seed, they take about 3 to 4 years to bloom. So if that gives you an idea, most of these are a few years old. And you can definitely start them from seed, but they do really well from cuttings also. And I might make a video about that later, but this is not the right time of year. It's a little bit too late and I don't want to take any cuttings right now. All right, these guys aren't badly shriveled, but they're just a little bit on the shriveled side. And again, since we're going into the active growing period, I am good to water. I don't know if you can see this one. It has a little damaged spot right here. And it's kind of puffy. It looks to me like it got sunburned and made a little callus there. I'm not sure. We'll see if that leaf makes it or not. But you can just take one of the heads off and peel back the little paper sheath around them and plant them. But I will, next year, if I do cuttings off of these guys. Right now I've just been letting them mostly propagate on their own. I have a few cuttings that are rooting, but mostly I've just been letting the clusters slowly grow and do their thing and not taking cuttings yet. Anyways, most of the Conophytum are day blooming, but some of them are actually night blooming, and they bloom at night because the insects that pollinate them are active at night. But the rest of them typically bloom in the day, and they open up with the sun and they close when it's a cloudy day, and that's to have the best chance of getting pollinated by insects because they're mostly out on sunny days. These guys aren't very badly shriveled at all. They're looking pretty perky, but they're just starting to shrivel, and since they're popping out blooms so crazily, I'm gonna give them a good drink. The potting mix that I have these guys in is primarily pumice and vermiculite, and there's also coconut husk in there to give it a little bit of soil-like texture without quite as much of the other additives in potting soil that I don't want. Oh, these I had already said.